So welcome everybody. Before I get to introductions, just a final round of housekeeping updates for everybody. First of all, we will be recording this and we'll be sending out the link to the recording when we invite you to next month's presentation, which will be on light justice. We're talking to lightjustice.org about a presenter, so I don't have a presenter to tell you about just yet. In addition to that, there are closed captioning available with translation services. So if you need to have something translated, that is available, and it's down in your Zoom toolbar. So that should be pretty easy to find. Once I turn it over to Sergio for his presentation, I will be muting everybody's microphones and their cameras. Nothing personal, just want to make sure that the focus is on the presenter himself. We will be holding all of our questions until the end. So there will be a question and answer section. Feel free to talk amongst yourselves in the chat though as well if you see a question come in that you feel you might have an answer. So with that, his resume is very, very long and very amazing. So I will let him recap what he feels is the best, because I feel like I would just recap the entire resume. But he not only is an amazing dark sky advocate and not only an amazing dark sky delegate, but he also is one of our board members and has done a lot of activism within the dark sky world. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Sergio.
Thank you, Alison. Do you hear me? Can you see me? Just checking technically. Okay, good. So, wow, I feel really excited about my presentation. I will share a screen, but first I want to thank the Dark Sky International for inviting me to provide this lecture. I thought about what can I say to the people who works on this fight that we all have to preserve our dark skies, right? So I thought like, okay, let's talk about what has been my path to develop the things I've developed and some of the achievements we have, and how my astrophotography has been important, and how astrophotography is important for this for the dark sky conservation, and how this experience have taken me to develop one of the only strategic plans for developing astrotourism here in Guatemala. So talking about my resume, I think one of the key points is that I am a stargazer since I am a kid. I love so much astronomy that when I was 29 years old, I quit my job here in Guatemala and fly through Argentina. So I guess I was able to study astronomy. I have been developing some tools about outreach to introduce astronomy and culture, and this is what I'm going to talk today, so you guys know what has been my path and how you or anybody can help dark sky conservation through the skills that each one of us have. So if you allow me a minute, I will share my screen. Here you go. So my program, my name, this is actually a new rebranding. I started with a program called Pinceladas Nocturnas. If you guys can please follow me in my Instagram is sergiomontufar.space. Here I put a lot of my new activities, so you can follow what I'm doing. So who is Sergio? Sergio is an astrophotographer. I've been working a lot of conservation outreach products that I'm going to talk about this today. But first, let's talk about astrophotography. What is photography and conservation? We know that by studies that professional conservation photographers, we are environmental educators who, through experiences, that created a set of skills and communication techniques. But not only this, experience in astrophotography and or photography will also give us the skills to register sites, to evaluate those sites, and to help the administrators how to develop those sites from the conservation perspective. Conservation photography is the union of visual with geographical, atmospheric, astronomical, and cultural environment. So this integration helps us to deliver a higher message, a stronger message to the people who see our work. But in my perspective, what is astrophotography? For me, astrophotography consists of images that contain distant stars, the sun, the moons, and planets. Okay. Now, with the astrophotography and the technology, we can also merge cultural and natural landscapes. Astrophotography has been a great tool for outreach people. We see this in the astronomical picture of the day. And for astrophotography in the last years have been really important for the people to start seeing the sky. I've seen a lot of growth through social media. Well, people who didn't actually pay attention to what's happening in the sky, now we see a lot of people sharing pictures of the sky, not just landscapes. We see people sharing afternoons, sunrise, the moon, because we are all, no matter which culture or who we are all part of the universe, right? And as Carl Sagan says, we are stardust. In the how do I classify astrophotography? For me, there are different fields, and with different skills, we need different skills and techniques, but we all reach the same goal, which is transmitted an astronomical concept to a society, right? So for me, deep sky combines advanced light capture techniques and advanced digital processing skills. We need that to obtain a great result of a distant nebula or galaxy. We need an equatorial mount, a guide telescope, a camera, a main camera, and we need to be has to be the same setup for the whole night, and we have to acquire several hours of light so we can then produce a good picture, right? But astrophotography coming out from a camera has a lot of noise and have a lot of things that we need to fix. The planetary also is the same. It's different in technique because the planets or the moon brightness is too high, so we need shorter exposures. So that's why astrophotographers use cameras with high-speed videos, so we can find the best frames from a video that were not affected by the atmosphere. Wild field for me is when you have a picture of the sky and you have a different setups of stars, nebula. Here we have the center of the Milky Way, and we need a camera with lens that has a short millimeter, right? So with larger focal lengths, we can reach. We have more reach and less field to capture. So with the wild field, we use shorter focal lengths. The landscape astrophotography, fotografía de paisaje astronómico, which is also known as nightscape, is a photography that combines a landscape from a cultural or a natural with the sky. But we have a message in the sky. We can have something to tell about the sky, and we also have to tell something about what is going on in the landscape. In this picture, I'm sharing one of my favorite astronomical sites, Tikal, Parque Nacional Tikal. It's a great experience to be here during the night, and it's one of our main projects right now here in Guatemala to promote this site as a dark sky park and also as a place to do astrophotography or astronomy. My techniques, since I am a conservationist photographer, I have to be really careful on how long I'm going with the digital era, right? Right now, with the artificial intelligence, we can create stuff, we can erase stuff, but the main conservation photography is to show as as natural as possible. It's not going to be 100% natural, because we will never see the sky the way a camera can see it, because cameras have longer exposure that our eyes cannot, right? So I follow most of the Tuan techniques because I like to have my photos as natural as possible. So my techniques, I use panoramic, I use integration, I do have 2 minutes tracking sky, and shut down my mount and have a 2 minutes landscape, so I can have a composite, but it's a natural composite. If I making my landscape during the twilight, and I wait for the night to have the Milky Way, that light that we have in the landscape is not going to be starlight. So for me, that's another type of, I respect that, but I prefer to be more natural on my techniques. When we do a quick research, this is data from November 9 to November 16 from 2021. We're looking for the astrophotography or astrophotografía award. We see that in just a few days, more than 2 million people the word reached more than 2 million people. So we have a lot of opportunities here through the astrophotography to reach people and deliver messages. What messages can we deliver in astrophotography is something that I'm gonna show which messages I share with the society. Astronomy picture of the day, I think it's a great resource to learn about astronomy. It's not about astrophotography only. It is about images. Images can be digital art. Images can be different type of visual representations of something that happens in the sky. In my case, I sent astrophotographies, but this is not the astrophotography picture of the day. This is the astronomy picture of the day, and it's very important. It has been really important for a lot of people, a lot of teachers, a lot of people who is involved in outreach, because we have an image and a text that is representing that. And we did a quick research from May to October. The astrophotography, the astronomy picture of the day actually reached a lot of people, also almost 3 million people. So astronomy has been in our veins since we have registers of the first people writing in petrophiles. We see astronomy things here. Now here I want to talk about this painting, because this painting was done in representation of a town and a beautiful sky. We don't have that now, because most of the towns are making or sending light pollution to the sky. So right here we have that moment where our era, where our society, where our civilization changed, because in 1890 we have this first electrical bulbs put it in the New York, and now we have a total disaster around the world because light pollution, it is a disaster. Right now we also see paintings. This is a painting from 76 from a volcano, and now we can actually capture those moments with the camera, not painting them, just with the camera. This is Volcán de Pacay in Guatemala. It's an active volcano that it's beautiful to see it during the night, and especially if we have a clear sky like this picture. But what inspired me? In 2012, I'm stargazer since I'm a kid. I love the sky. I used to go to the roof, watch shooting stars, counting them. I didn't have a lot of information, because we didn't have internet, or the books that we have were more about pseudoscience and not science. We have Año Cero, a magazine that will totally give you wrong information about what is going on in the sky. But one of the informations we didn't have in Guatemala was the greatness of cultural astronomy in Guatemala with the Mayan culture. So I was part of a Congress on 2012. We were able to visit Tacalicabac. This is a new site considered UNESCO heritage site. And right here, those feet that you see there, this is an altar that is oriented to the sunrise on the 21st of December. In Guatemala, for the Mayan culture, the solstice of 21 of December was very important. And we also have our dry season, right? We started with dry season from November to April, and we have the wet season from May to October. So most of the stargazers can see the sky in this epoch, right? But in the sky we can see a lot of things. So this was a very important moment for me because I was able to visualize the greatness of a culture in their astronomy education, right? Not the contemporary astronomy. We're talking about people who see the skies and track the movement of the stars, and through the tracking movement of the star, they were able to make statistics of what are the cycles on nature, and nature is about cycles, right? They even have a different time perspective, because time for them is also in cycles. So it's very interesting to learn about this. In 2012, we also had the Venus transit. The Venus transit for some of the archaeoastronomers was identified in one of the Mexico's buildings. So I think there's a lot of research we can do, right? So I said, let's go. I need to study astronomy, right? So I quit my job. I left to Argentina, and I introduced myself as a student in Universidad Nacional de La Plata. I started working with astronomers, amateur astronomers, and also with professional astronomers. So I was able to be educated by great amateur astronomers, really fans, and great scientists. So I started working with these two profiles. So both working with those two profiles in a daily basis made my perspective of how we have to outreach astronomy to society. I started working for Planetario Ciudad de La Plata in 2014. This was my first professional work as an astrophotographer, and I consider that it was a great opportunity that I was able to start working for the planetarium, because how many astrophotographers have been able to professionally work in a scientific institution? So I was actually the first one working in this institution as an astrophotography, and of course, this will open the path for more people who comes behind in the learning process of this beautiful technique. Right in the sky, we see a beautiful moon corona. It was a winter night, so when I made this picture. Working for the planetarium was a great experience because we have an 18-meter diameter screen where I was able to start producing virtual reality shows. I started producing full dome shows, and with the team of the planetarium, we wanted to get more into culture. We don't need the planetarium to be only identified as, okay, you have to go there to see the sky. So we started creating more cultural activities. So we start reaching more people, and more people when they come to the. It was like a Troya, like a Troya horse. Come here to see this cultural event. But in the cultural event, we talk about astronomy, and a lot of people was reached and by this beautiful tool that we have. In the left, we see a picture of Chubut. This is airglow and some beautiful Milky Way over the horizon. In the left, we see the screen of the planetarium of La Plata. Atmosphere is very important for us because we really need the atmosphere to watch the stars. So we have to find out places with great atmosphere to watch the stars. But we don't need to be 5,000 meters away to make astrotourism. We can make astrotourism just by the ocean, right? But atmosphere is a very important factor that we need to take in consideration. Here we have a day picture of atmospheric optics going on in La Plata, as it was also in Argentina. And of course, this being in Argentina helped me a lot to see what was the impact of light pollution. We used to, in 2013, we used to travel 90 meters away from La Plata, Buenos Aires. La Plata, is located 60 miles away from Buenos Aires. And we were surrounded, we have really dark sky above us, but we were surrounded by light pollution. And this is where I learned the impact. I said like, okay, this is growing really fast. What is going to happen in the next 15 years? We have to do something. And this is when I started contacting, I remember I contacted Connie Walker. I don't even remember how I got her contact, but I contacted her and she introduced me to the International Dark Sky Association, which provided us tools to create a logic on how a site needs to be protected. So I started my activism in light pollution thanks to the Dark Sky Association, which is very important, and that's why it's international. Even if the tools were not in Spanish, I was able to translate them, right? Because I actually have I work for the customer service industry, so my English was better by time, right? And this other picture that will show us as well what is the impact of this light pollution. Right, what we see here is considered by Les Curley, one of the atmospheric copter picture of the day, as one maybe a replicable picture, because the type of light pillars that we see here coming from a city, not from a single bulb, we're from a group of fixtures, right? So those towns are located 45 miles away, and the farthest to the left, to the right, is located around 75 miles away. So this is where I started learning what was the impact of light pollution. And by time I was saying, when I grow older, I'm not gonna have spaces to watch the sky. So we really need to do something. And I started my career as a movie producer. This was my team where I started creating audiovisuals and pictures for to outreach. And they're actually Argentinians. This is to the left, Cynthia Peri is an astronomer. Pablo Santamaria is an astronomer as well. Hernan Moyano is a movie director. So I learned a lot from them, and we started traveling around Argentina and created the first actually movie that can be reproduced in full dome, but also in movie, and also we have another web series. So this is about an astrophotographer that discovers the astronomical observatories of Argentina while chasing dark skies. So at this moment, I managed the astrotourism concept, but I was not actually really aware that I was a astrotourist, right? How did I put myself into that profile? So we started traveling in Argentina. We started documenting observatories in Argentina. The most important skies are located in San Juan, for example. This is the greatest observatory in the country. This is actually where I started studying. I was actually the only one having access to the observatory during the night. I was even the astronomers, the people who we were all studying, but who really, the people who really love the astronomy, we're very, very short, right? We were there during the nights, chasing the Milky Way, but there was a lot of light pollution, right? It wasn't the same. This is one of my favorite pictures I took from the observatory. And this also a great picture showing one of the darkest skies in Chubut, San Juan, Argentina. And I learned here that there were some people working for Astrotourism, and I started learning a lot from them. And I started creating a strategy. How can we protect this sky by certifying this place as a dark sky site? And then we can promote more visiting for tourism, right? So for me, I've been promoting the dark sky certificates for more than 8 years now, but our government system is kind of difficult. So we really need to break that to sensibilize and teach a lot of people the importance of dark skies, right? So we actually, with the Camino Eterno, created the first astrotourism route In Argentina, there was no route before that, and this is like the main project that started a movement nationally, right? So I learned a lot from my Argentina friends, astronomers and amateurs, and I was actually creating the astronomical image for the scientific community, and it was a great honor for me to be there and work for them, and of course all the learnings there. And I started creating my own projects like La Ruta de las Estrellas. This is in Chubut, as a province on the Patagonia. We started this project with Paula Hassenbiller. It's a friend of mine, a local astrophotographer. And our project here is to uh, travel around the natural areas. They have like 14 natural areas. They are beautiful. And they have a lot of dark skies yet. But light pollution is going fast. Like, for example, these two towns to the left are located 75 miles away from where I'm located right now, Cabo Raso. This picture was also an astronomical picture of the day. It was my third astronomical picture of the day. I have the Milky Way above this boat that sank in 2002 after a very strong storm. And talking to the people, we started talking to the people, sensibilized like communities, municipalities, talking about certifications, talking about all the things that they were able to do. And this doing the same thing, going to places, documenting them, showing the pictures, telling them this is great, we have to protect it. We are actually have a lot of growth since those years to this year. Argentina now have a route that it's recognized by the government, right? That's very important. The government needs to be involved, not just the community. So we started involving the government. In this picture, we see the Little Prince drawing number one. That's the snake swallowing the elephant in the Little Prince book. That's the local story, right? And I think it could be. But we also see great, beautiful sky with a lot of colors because of the air glow. We see Orion. For most of you that are the school, you're gonna see Orion totally, I don't know, volteado. I don't know how to say that word in English, but it's looking for backwards, right? Orion, you can see Orion right there. That's also an example that our Earth is not flat. So astrophotography can also show that. You see Andromeda there, like 4 degrees. That's the highest altitude that it can reach. And to the bottom, we see the lighting of the Buenos Aires, 300 miles away. 300 miles away, we see the towering lights. So it's very important for us to work on that. So people have a lot of afraid of the night and they want to light everything, right? So this is why we have to teach them through different techniques. I created the Estrellas Ancestrales, which is discover the sacred Mayan sites on their nighttime sky and learn about their astronomy, worldview, and sacred calendar. We identified that the Mayans were a great culture, astronomical speaking, more advanced than the Egyptians, even more advanced scientifically, more advanced than the Greeks. We didn't know that until a few years, and we have to still share this with the world. But Maya astronomy, it's amazing. And they have calendars that they still use in the Maya communities. So this is a huge thing, right? And we're working to discover more things, to promote them, of course, with scientific methods, right? I'm creating the first Guatemala route through the archaeological sites. This is my bottom picture, is Parque Nacional Tikal, my favorite. It's located inside of a jungle. Sea level is 173 meters above the sea level, and we have humidity. Of course, it's a rainforest, right? But being here, watching the stars, or even being here during the night, even if it's cloudy, it's amazing because you're in the middle of a jungle. How many people would love to have that experience, right? So I said like, okay, I don't have to be selfish. I have the authorization to be here. Let's work something else. Let's promote dark sky conservation in this area, but we also develop a plan for astrotourism. And of course, image is very important because we have to transcribe and transmit the correct meaning of this. For example, if I show you here people that is having a ceremony and with fire, and they talk about connecting with the energies of the universe, and they probably talk about superior beings, right? Like people talk about God. In our scientific community, that will not be accepted. But when we analyze what they're doing, they have a really important worldview, philosophy, and also they are timekeepers. They're watching the sky and they are predicting what is going to happen, not just because, oh, the sky is the moon and the planet are aligned and it's going to happen this. No, they know what's going to happen because they know to learn and read the nature because nature works on cycles. So it's very important for us to transmit these concepts correctly because it could be totally misunderstood. This is the picture that I show you, the monument of the little feet showing the December 21st sunrise in Tacalica Baja. We also have volcanoes, we have timekeepers, sacred sites, and beautiful places. And of course, if we develop a strategy so people can visit Guatemala, we can develop a monetary economic industry around dark sky conservation, and that's very important. Tourism in some places is destructible. That's why before promoting tourism, we have to work on steps to preserve that place. To preserve this Tikal, we have been working for 6 years. We have pilots run, we know what the process is, and we hope in the next 1 or 2 years, this place will be open for visits. But before that, we are creating the rules on how people need to behave in this place because it's dangerous. Probably a snake can bite someone because this is a jungle. So we need processes, not only to protect the animals, but also the plants and the sky, but also the monuments, because of course, if it's heritage, it is protected, right? And this is a UNESCO heritage site. Mirador is the darkest sky in Mesoamerica. There is no darkest sky in Mesoamerica other than Mirador. There is close to Honduras and Nicaragua, a great area that it's not polluted, but the darkest sky mixed with cultural are here in the Mirador. So right here we see the Northern Star right in the middle of the picture. We see Orion. Of course, Orion right now is horizontal. We are located in a tropical, 17 degrees above the Ecuador. So Orion looks different. And again, this is a great example of the earth is not flat, right? We also see the zodiacal light, and of course, some light pollution in the bottom that comes from towns and Mexico. This site is located like 5 miles away from Mexico. Another piece of art that we developed was the Antiguo Guatemala Suspendida en el Tiempo, and this is a astrophotography that documents architecture and what was the position of the monuments, the colonial monuments in Guatemala, watching to the sky. In the Catholic religion, the monuments are oriented to the west, because the people who is going to the church, the sunrise comes to the east, so the altar is always facing west, because people will see behind the altar how is the sunrise, right? And this is like the worldview, which is great because it's also made by star inspiration. Watching the sky has inspired all these things, right? And this work has been really important because we introduce artists and we also introduce architectures. So with this sample, we started working with the architecture industry and the artistic industry, and we started seeing more samples, more works about dark sky about dark skies or astronomy in art, and also in lighting designs for architecture. So that's very important as well. And one of my favorite is the volcano work. This is a Mount Vesuvio. It was done in 1729. And right now we also have some fire volcanoes in Guatemala that are also unique. This is the Anillo de Fuego is another work that we have that has been that combines geological features with the night sky, celestial objects, and astronomical phenomena. The concept was developed next to geologists, and also all the process includes research, general documentation, and identify strategy locations for this type of photography here in Guatemala, right? We have some great meteors when we can see volcanoes and things that are going on in volcano things great because we have the north wind mixing with the southern wind. Both winds, southern winds comes from the ocean, some is warm. The north wind already comes how to say frío, cold wind, and they mix and they create all this stuff. Like these storms are great. We have spots when we have a volcano and we can see shooting stars. So we have a volcano and we can see the northern star close to it. So this is like a great mix, right? Of course, we have to work with our atmosphere. So another picture. So astrotourism has become for me a great tool to promote these concepts in society. This is Huachatún. This actually is a ball game what we see here. So before football, before basketball, the Mayans were playing ball in this stadium. So it's also huge because it has a lot of worldview with the astronomy. So with all this experience, I was able, and I identify myself like, okay, I travel to site, I can register site, I can evaluate this site about what type of sky we'll have, and also what type of tourism development has. I can create ideas for development. I can conceptualize these sites, and also I can create strategic plans to develop the sites. And currently, I have more than 17 areas, protected areas, that we're working projects with them. So we hopefully can see soon some of these areas certified. But has been a lot of work and a lot of study, right? So this is why I'm at the end of the day, I'm an astrophotographer, I'm an explorer. I can do register sites, I can evaluate sites, I can generate ideas, I can conceptualize those sites and create strategic plans. So for me, astrotourism is a type of tourism that combines recreation and learning by visiting places related to space. It helps share scientific ideas and includes aspects of cultural and natural heritage. Astronomical tourism can happen in various places, such as cities, natural areas, famous sites, and educational centers like museums or planetariums. One of the main attractions is to enjoy a night sky free of light pollution. So when all the things you see there, made for me, it was a great experience to learn, to work with a lot of people, a lot of institutions. So I started working to help the Tourism Institute in Guatemala. In Argentina, we're working with the Ministerio de Turismo in áreas protegidas as well. I'm also in contact with tourism institutes in Mexico, in Honduras. So we're creating a huge impact regionally, right? And this is very important because with these steps, we're creating a domino effect. So this is our first plan estratégico. This is a strategic plan for the sustainable development of tourism in Guatemala. So this is a plan that has been developed for, let's say, maybe 7 years, for 7 years. I'm going to share right now the link of this plan so you guys can download this plan and review it. Let me share with you. The plan is right now there. So how do we create this plan? This plan was created with 14 collaborators of the Tourism Institute. We had two teams and more than 50 institutions working for it. Government institutions, private institutions, and educational institutions. And this was very important because we were able to decentralize the astronomy from the scientific community. Now we also provided tools to the tourism sector, and also we provided tools to the educational sector. So we have a view in the next 7 days that we will be able to offer astronomical activities based on our culture and nature, and of course promoting dark skies. I'm going to share with you the plan. I already sent it to the chat, but this is our plan. We have an introduction, we have a methodology, how we create this thing. We have a diagnosing. We made a lot of research on politics. We made a lot of nationally, internationally. We also contextualize the international concepts of astrotourism and dark sky conservation. We have some images that will help people understand what are the quality of the sky are we looking for. We analyze the national panorama, so we can conceptualize also astrotourism for the country. We created the first we created a method to evaluate these sites and categorize them depending on the experience that a tourism will have, and also what the type of sky that it has. And we measure the type of sky by how many nights we think the sky will be clear, what is the height as well, because it will definitely create an impact on what we're looking. But most important, what is the level of light pollution? So here we can get a rank, and we can know, okay, this could be prioritized, this needs to be protected, this needs to be restored, right? The sky needs to be restored. We also made an analyze how many cloudy days we have in Guatemala. So we now know what time in the year we have better chances of stargazing, and what are the best areas for stargazing in the country. So there's a lot of information here in Spanish. We hope to translate this in English and continue sharing it with the world. But if you wanna try download it and find some information that could be useful as well for your local developments, that will be great. We identify actors. We identify political situations, economics, social, culture, technological, environmental, legal, everything that needs to be. We also made a FODA, is strengths, opportunities, weaknesses, and threats. We also identified this. We created, so this was like, we did an analysis, we did some research on some activities, that we did with people. We contact some tourism providers. We analyze the competence. We call this competence now, because right now we're in the economical perspective. So we analyze what was the advantages that we'll have with Chile, Spain, Argentina, Peru, Colombia, Mexico, Costa Rica, Honduras, and El Salvador. Right here, this is the only country we're looking for, because we also have to watch what is our plan for tourism in the country. So we analyze these countries by what is the tourism potential, what is the development of tourism industry, what is the legal perspective for each country. We see here that we have to get a lot of dark sky certificates in Latin America. We only have in Iberoamerica, because right now, including Spain, we only have one dark sky sanctuary in Chile, and we only have one dark sky sanctuary in Spain. Of course, Mexico has already this new designation for Querétaro, and we hopefully gonna get some other soon. So, and the most important, and I'm gonna get this is the strategic plan. So right here we have objectives, and the most important, we have projects, and those projects come aligned with actions that needs to be done to develop an industry, going into educational system, going in, taking this to the legal system, and also promote the growthness, the economical growthness. So you can download this from the link I just sent, and the next tool we developed was the manual, the best practices manual. The best practices manual is also in Spanish. It's also was done for the Guatemalan perspective. But since astronomy is a universal thing, there are a lot of things here that can be put in practice in a lot of countries. To create this document, we have more than 50 people from around different countries helping us, especially from Latin America, right, and Spain. So this manual will help people to be an entrepreneur in astrotourism. So if you have a company that offers tourism, this is your manual. If you're a tourist, this is your manual. If you are a guide tourist, this is your manual. If you're an amateur astronomer who also provides astrotourism services, this could help you as well to have a logic development of your entrepreneur. So this is another tool that we just came out with some visual thing there, because I think visuals are very important for people to read. I'm gonna give you right now the link for the manual. Is right here. There you go. So with this strategic planning, we hope to have a market around astronomy, and we hope that creating an impact on the economics will force communities to protect their skies. Maybe the forced communities to protect their skies is not well done, but we promote for the communities to protect their skies, because we're letting them know that there are some developments that can be done. From the European and the United States perspective, the threats for conservations are different and are based on the economics. This is something I learned here working in Latin America. There's a lot of people, for example, in the Biosfera Maya, there's a lot of expensive trees. If that area was not protected, we wouldn't have any trees anymore. In the last 20 years, more than 50% of the jungle was killed in the last 20 years. But there was an area that was protected, is still there because the communities are protecting the trees. They manage the area. But now we can tell them, let's protect their skies and create a system that protect all that area. Protecting that area will help the remaining communities to protect their places as well. So I would like to thank you. I would say thank you for paying attention to all this information. I hope it could be useful, and I really hope to bring you some of these experiences, so you, from your perspective, you can also help in the dark sky conservation. I think it's time for questions, right?
Yes, sorry, my unmute would not turn on. I'm gonna take host privilege and ask my question first, or at least an observation. I loved that you mentioned connecting culture through planetariums, because planetariums are where so many people, especially children, start understanding not only the scientific nature of studying the night sky, but the cultural significance. And my senior project in college was creating a star show at a planetarium with comparing one constellation and talking about the cultural significance of that in multiple different cultures. So I love that because, you know, I flash back to our Under One Sky conference with the 18-year-old speaker who talked about growing up under light pollution. And I think that is such a significant item to reach out to people is through planetariums. Are you continuing that work, or do you see a need for that to continue?
I see a need for that. Guatemala doesn't have any planetarium yet. This is one of the weaknesses that we have. We don't have a outreach tool like this. So we are promoting a planetarium here in Guatemala, but investment, if we have one big planetarium, which will be the best option, is a huge is investment. And culture is not ready yet for that. I mean, culture might be, they want it, but you know, people who will invest in that are not ready. They don't know the potential. They don't know that you don't only know about science, you can get there architecture designers and whatever, you know, there's a huge thing you can do with planetariums. So we hope to have a planetarium in the next 7 years. We really hope to have one or at least 2 or 3 small planetariums. Some of the strategies that we propose to promote Guatemala in skies in the exterior is to create full dome shows, like 1 minute full dome show, and share it to some planetariums around the world so they can see, okay, where is this located, right? And this is also great strategy for anybody who wants to promote the skies of each country. It can be done by using full dome shows, but full dome screens can also be, you see what is happening in Las Vegas right now with this huge lighting ball, LED ball they make concerts. That's a planetarium. That's a planetarium. So this this idea was already developed years ago, but they're using it now from a different perspective. So if we can get that place to promote some ideas, some science thing, I think it's great as well. It's a great tool.
All right. So Marco had a great question. You kind of answered it in your documentation at the end, but he is in Costa Rica and he says, we would like to have places to watch the sky, not just observatories. What are your recommendations for places in Central America? So maybe your favorite places to visit or some of the places that you're working with.
Yes. First of all, we have since I'm working with a government institution, I'm looking for public places that are parks that are managed by administration, by the Ministry of Culture or natural areas. So there's a lot of, Costa Rica has a lot of beautiful nature tourism and nature system. So there's a lot of places there that could be used for astrophotography. First, make a picture of the place, show it to the administrator. They will fall in love immediately. And then you can start talking about the process that requires to certify that place. That people will feel interested in, and they will love the idea of being certified. So we do have a great opportunity to show these places. And for example, you have Atlantic Ocean. So just identify the most beautiful places. What is the government structure? If they have a municipality, if they're under a ministry, talk to them, show them the pictures. I think pictures is the first visual thing that they can show. Another thing that helps is to provide them the experience. So you go and visit a natural area, and the administrator will be sleeping during the night. They say, "Oh yeah, I have seen the sky," but let's say, "Okay, I'm gonna show you some stuff," right? And you bring the administrator to the area. You identify the most beautiful places to see the sky, right? Because some areas are better than others. So you find the best area to show the administrator. You take in here, we start talking about the sky, start talking about astronomy. If you have some knowledge about the local culture. That's very important as well. And also, and show them the impact of light pollution. And people from the conservation area, they don't know about conservation of the dark skies. They don't consider that in their scholarships and anything. So I've worked with a lot of administrators that they haven't put attention to that. They are animal lovers, they're plant lovers, they want to preserve everything. What about the sky? So sky is also making a huge negative impact on this species, right? So telling them those things, sensibilize those things. I mean, the most important thing is to create to identify those sites and find ways to sensibilize the community that is around those sites, and that will help a lot in advancing these concepts.
Okay. I'm going to combine two questions from Jason and Mina. So they are talking about astrophotography and astrotourism routes. And then even like who should be leading those? Like what qualifications do you see? So I guess how do you marry an astrotourism route with astrophotography, especially when you're just getting started, and what areas should they study to lead those routes?
Well, in my perspective, it will depend. I mean, most of the astrophotographers are amateur astronomers, so they know about astronomy. Before I started creating pictures, I was providing guidance. I provided workshops. I had a telescope and telling the people about, oh, this is Jupiter, this is whatever. So you don't need to be in a really dark place to make this thing happen, right? It could be done in a city. So you have to find out if the place is going to be good for a tourist, a normal person who doesn't know anything about astronomy but want to learn some things. You're not an astrophotographer, they're not astrophotographer, so the approach will be different. So you have to find different things. Okay, how comfortable you're going to be. There is a great Patagonia sky. If you want to share it, I'm going to share it here in Instagram. She's Nani. She's a great leader. She's a great guidance tourist. So she started an entrepreneur. She started learning astronomy. She's not an astrophotographer, but she's been working with some astrophotographers so they can create more bounds, right, and bring more people. So depending on what people you will get there, if you want to take astrophotographers, it's a different approach. Some of the things that I spoke with Betty Maya, who came here to Guatemala, was that there's a lot of problems in the United States with people who create light painting in dark sky areas. So you also have two different profiles you also have two different profiles. You have the profile from a light painting photographer, and you have a profile from an astrophotographer. You have a profile from a person who just want to be there 1 hour and go to dinner, right? So you have to identify how comfortable is going to be. The astrophotography will not need comfortability. I mean, astrophotographers will be up all night, walking in the dark. A light painting photographer will be with the lighting all the night. He's not even going to pay attention to the sky. But the other person could be some, the other person could be some common person, I will say it this way, who just want to have her kids watching the sky. And by experience, we know that some people will stay there for 3 hours, but there's going to be a lot of people that will need just 30 minutes, and because they will start feeling uncomfortable with the weather, with the cold, with the wind. So it will depend. You have to choose the route which is going to be helpful for each one. So I have a site that could be used by normal people. I have another site that could be used by astrophotographers, for example, right?
Sweet. All right. Well, we have a minute left. So what I'm going to do is just a quick shout out to our advocate Slack. If you are interested in connecting a little bit further, we do have a Slack channel for all of our advocates. And we will be happy to share the link in the recap to this when we send out the recording. And as it is now noon, we didn't. Oh, and Betty Maya put the advocate Slack link in the chat for me. Thank you, Betty Maya. So yeah, I want to thank you so much for doing this presentation. Your images were absolutely stunning and just kept everybody's attention. Everybody kept talking about it in the chat about how amazing the images and the presentation was. So I just want to thank you for doing the presentation, and thank you everybody for tuning in. I very much appreciate it.
Thank you for all the people who was here. And thank you for inviting me.